Thomas Eyelikeness reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city is Edmonton, and we're bringing you news from across the country. Well, it's Thursday already, just one more day to go and the week is over. Let's get that second cup of coffee going here, and we're going to sit back and find out what's happening today. First, the weather across Canada. We'll have a look at today's street scene. It comes from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Say that real fast. Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. That sounds like a foreign language or something. But Saskatoon is a city in the province of Saskatchewan. The video we're watching here is courtesy of LV Brensis Bobbis. Thank you, LV, for the video. Most of the country today, sunny, although Vancouver reported some rain and 11 degrees, mostly sunny in Alberta. We had temperatures in the low to mid-teens. Saskatchewan, a little bit warmer. They reached the mid to upper teens in Saskatoon there. That's the river valley you're looking at there. You could just see back there. Yeah, that back there is kind of where the skyline of the city is. Saskatoon got up to 15 degrees today. We move eastward to Manitoba, where Winnipeg reported a high of 11 degrees, much better than yesterday. Toronto still a bit cooler, reaching only 6 degrees today with sunshine, though. And that was certainly better than the snow showers they experienced yesterday. The nation's capital of Ottawa, 2 degrees. Montreal, 1 degree with rain. The Atlantic coast provinces, they're all pretty much rainy and cool, although they did get some sunshine in Newfoundland. And the temperatures in those 4 provinces ranged from 3 to 5 degrees. Now we'll look at the news of the day. First, I want to update you briefly on that shooting rampage last weekend in rural Nova Scotia. Police have revised the death toll in that from 23 victims to 22. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police clarified that number in a news release late last night. An earlier release had suggested it was 23, but in fact 22. Police are still trying to piece together just what happened. What prompted that 51-year-old gunman to commit these horrific crimes? People are still also waiting for answers on why police used Twitter. They used Twitter rather than the province's central alert system to alert the public about the gunman, and nobody's been able to say why. There's just no answers on that at all. The COVID-19 pandemic has added to the suffering of survivors of that deadly tragedy as well. Social distancing rules are limiting the size of funerals and memorials. Just 5 people can attend. Not a lot of people. And to those attending, if they're among the 5, you have to be 2 meters from each other. So to help grieving relatives and friends, a virtual vigil has been organized. It's planned for Friday, April the 24th, and the 2-hour vigil begins at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Daylight Time. Now that translates, if any of you are in the Philippines, had friends or relatives in that area of the country, that broadcast, that live streaming would in fact be at 6 o'clock in the morning, Philippine time. And again, it's going to be live streamed on a Facebook page. The Facebook group is called the Colchester Supporting Our Communities group. You can check out the exact spellings and so on the eaglenews.net website. We've got a story up there on the memorial. Now, that group was established to allow people to come together, share their experiences, express their emotions, all the things we used to be able to do in person, but we can't right now. There's also a website, www.heartcolchester.ca. That's been set up too, and it lists verified GoFundMe pages to support families of the victims. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau indicated earlier when he spoke to us on Monday that he would be taking part in any virtual vigils. The Prime Minister also said today it's going to be a while before his government introduces gun legislation. He says the COVID-19 pandemic has interrupted the whole legislative agenda.
We are certainly looking at introducing our new gun control measures that were ready to go before Parliament was suspended of the because of COVID-19. The rules around the unanimous consent motion that governs the return of Parliament in a reduced state specifically state that we need to only introduce measures that are related to COVID-19, but we will certainly be seeing with other parties if there is an appetite to move more quickly given the measures in place, given the tragedy that we just had.
Now, Trudeau admits the country is divided on the gun issue, but he says he'll press ahead with it anyway.
We made some very strong commitments in the last election campaign on strengthening gun control. We saw there was a significant debate in this country that continues between parties that are in favor of strengthening gun control and other parties that want to weaken gun control. There continues to be a need for debate in this country, but we are resolute that we need to move forward on strengthening gun legislation, on strengthening gun control in smart, common sense ways, and on banning assault-style weapons from this country. They have no place in our communities, in our country, and that's why we will be moving forward with legislation to ban them.
Well, students are going to get some help from the Canadian government. Prime Minister Trudeau today reached into the government wallet and pulled out $9 billion. Now, that money is going to go toward a cash benefit that will be given out every month to students as well. It'll help create more jobs for students, and the government will be doubling educational grants that are awarded to students.
COVID-19 has meant that there aren't as many jobs out there for students. And without a job, it can be hard to pay for tuition or the day-to-day basics. You might normally have turned to your parents for help, but right now Mom and Dad are stretched too. And even if monthly bills aren't the concern, you may have been counting on the summer job for next year's tuition or to get the right experience for your career. As young people, what you're going through matters, and we want to make sure that you'll be okay. So today, I'm announcing our plan to support students right across the country. We're launching the Canada Emergency Student Benefit to provide immediate help. At the same time, we will create new student jobs and double student grants, among other things. All of these measures will add up to approximately $9 billion for students.
Okay, now that student benefit goes into effect at the beginning of May, and it'll run through until the end of August. Students will receive $1,250 a month, and those taking care of someone or have a disability will get an extra $500 a month. The benefit is available to current post-secondary students, those who are planning to go to college or university this fall, and those who graduated in December of 2019. Here are the numbers as they stand today in Canada. We're at about 29,000 cases of COVID-19. That's the number reported since the outbreak began. There have been nearly 1,900 deaths. And again, half of those deaths are linked to seniors' homes. This is just really a problem. These homes are short-staffed. In Ontario, the premier of that province, his name's Doug Ford. He says he's going to be asking the federal government for help from the military. Canadian Forces medical personnel are already helping out in neighboring Quebec, but Quebec wants more help with that. The premier there is asking for an additional 1,000 soldiers. Quebec's premier says there's 80 nursing homes in his province now that he describes as being in a critical situation. Now, in my province, the government has earmarked money to hire more healthcare aides. That's also increased their wages. So we seem to have the problem under control here somewhat, but again, we'll wait and see on that. We also see positive signs that we're gaining the upper hand on COVID-19 in Alberta. But our Chief Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, you've heard her before on the program, she says we need to remember the virus is still out there. It's still lurking in the shadows, still waiting to attack. Hinshaw talked about how she talked about, I should say, how she's heard how people want things to get back to normal.
As we head towards the second month since Alberta's first case was announced, I am hearing a lot of discussion about wanting to start opening up and getting back to more of a normal routine. I sympathize with this desire. I too want to get back to normal as soon as possible. The challenge we are facing is that in some ways we are a victim of our own success. We have collectively pulled together to reduce the spread of this virus, and to a large measure we have succeeded. The temptation we need to resist is to think that because we haven't yet seen the spread that our model predicted, that means the problem has gone away. That is not true. The virus is still with us, and we need to continue to take it very seriously, even as we start to think about reopening again.
Now, Henshaw says things didn't get as bad as some experts predicted, but she warns the danger is not over. Henshaw says, "Nuh-uh, we cannot be complacent."
We can think about this virus as a tidal wave that could have swept in and left a trail of destruction behind. This didn't happen because we collectively formed a barrier by our actions to prevent the full force of this wave from striking us. As we start to change our behavior in planning to reopen segments of our society, we need to remember that the potential force of that tidal wave is still there. We will need to keep following core elements of the public health measures for many months to come.
So it's going to be a while before things change. Food processors are in a lot of trouble across the country. We've told you about the outbreak at that beef processing plant in High River. There's another in southern Alberta as well. That's a similar outbreak with nearly 100 infected workers. In Quebec, a large pork processor, again, the virus just running rampant through the workforce of that plant. And the latest outbreak at a food processing plant is in neighboring BC, where 28 workers at the United Poultry Company, it's a chicken processing plant. It's in Abbotsford, which is near Vancouver. 28 workers have tested positive for the virus. Health officials have shut that plant down. The fears of getting the virus has made it difficult for plants that are still operating to find workers. First of all, nobody's applying for the jobs. You don't want to work there. And people that do work there, they're just not showing up for their shifts. They're saying, hey, the money isn't worth it. It's not worth risking my life to have a job. So truly, this is going to be a challenge for the food industry, and we'll keep you up to date on what's happening with that here. Around my city, well, here's what's been happening. Police report that they've begun issuing tickets for non-compliance of public health orders. Fines starting at $1,000. So far, one business, one person have been cited. No word on exactly what they did. Summer entertainment pretty much out the window. Jazz festivals, folk music events, street performers, live plays, cultural celebrations, that's all gone. But you know, in the interest of remaining healthy so we can enjoy them in the future, I support understanding the cancellations. Now, before I go today, a couple of things I want to do. Before I get out of here, our video postcard comes today from the Belisi brothers. That's Ryan and CJ. They're brothers, and they know how to spend their time well when they're at home. Here, I'll just let them tell you.
Many of you, we're also staying inside, spending our time watching Guerrero Dos. We would also like to give a special thanks to those who are working in the front lines of the medical fields.
Special greetings to our family at home, Tito G, Tito Abel, and Tito Jun Canlas.
So well said, boys. And if you haven't seen it, be sure to watch Guerrero Dos up on YouTube. The price is right. You know, my wife Shello and I watched it again the other night and thoroughly enjoyed it again. Let's take a few seconds, too, to salute this trio of frontliners. They work in my city here in Edmonton. Thank you for taking care of us. Let's see these three people up on the screen here. Thank you again for taking care of us. And for all of you, I wish you good health. Take care of others. Take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.